identify as chill?
I would definitely say that I would have identified as chill. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you're funny enough to have been chill throughout high school, to goof your way through school.
Yeah, I mean, like I was a solid B student. I rarely studied. I'm sure if I had studied, I'm sure.
Right. No, I was just going to say you and I. Yeah. I don't know if everyone here is that person, but yes.
Yeah.
Like you're a do no work.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I was diseased with when I do nothing, I can pass the class.
Yes.
Disease.
Yes. There was only the only time I wasn't able to do that was when I got a little too obnoxiously arrogant and took calculus in high school.
That'll do it.
Yep. And
trig was where I hit my head on the do nothing and still pass ceiling.
Yep.
Amen.
Yes, trig. Yes, exactly.
Yep.
That's where yep. And like even like history, I could just like sit and listen in class and I would absorb enough that like I could pass the tests and stuff. But yeah, like it was very much like my group of friends were the group of people that nobody really paid attention to, but we got into a lot of trouble after school. And I lived with my grandma and I told her that like I was just going over to my friend's house where in fact I was going to a massive party where the cops got called. And actually there was one party in high school. It will forever be deemed the shotgun party. And we went to a friend's house whose parents weren't home, and her older brother got us a bunch of booze. And we had this massive party. Like it was so big. And then the cops came.
Noise.
Oh, noise. Yeah. Noise. Well, the cops. So it started getting people started fighting each other. And the older brother pulled out a shotgun.
Ooh.
Yeah. And like it wasn't loaded, but it was like to scare people.
Yeah.
And then the cops got called and he got like put in the back of a car and then called my grandma and convinced her that I was completely sober. And I didn't think I was bad either. I think I had told the lie so many times that I convinced myself that I was also good.
Did you just think you were a slacker?
No, I wasn't a slacker. I mean, like I was on the swim team and I was on the swim team and I got like, B's, B+. And I wouldn't say I was a slacker.
Okay.
I was like to everyone else. Apparently when other people describe me from high school, they say that they always thought I was very funny. And I never thought I was funny. I thought that I was the most boring human being. And I was definitely trying to project boring. Yeah. I mean, probably also because I was, gay and closeted. And I was trying to just like skirt in under the radar of everybody and hide who I was as a human being.
So what did that look like? Did you celebrate getting along with normal people? Was that something that you did, or how did it show up?
Well, that's an interesting question. Did I celebrate? Like, I didn't want to be like the prissy, like the prissy chicks, but I also wasn't like into being, super goth. And yeah, I guess I was like, I was very into. Thanks. I'm having a moment, Adrien.
I'm just very into your story.
I would say that I was just really into like flying under the radar and looking normal and acting normal and being everyone's friend. I wanted to be all of the teachers' friends too. I was, and I people who I don't remember me, and I don't know why.
Were you like a little adult?
Probably.
Did you run into these people like at a reunion, or is this just periodically people reach out to you from time to time? Or?
Facebook or some shit?
Or like friends of friends, or I mean my grandmother and my sister. Oh, I was talking with the mic away. So
this means I don't like what you're doing.
Oh, okay. No, because my grandmother and my sister both still live in the same like city that I grew up in, like within blocks of where I went to high school. So inevitably there are going to be people still there who I run into, and I'll run into them and I won't recognize them, and they'll be like, Lauren, and I'm like, oh hey, and they remember me.
So what you're saying is like you're surprisingly memorable. It surprises you yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I mean, I'm sure all of us think that we're like the most boring person in high school. No.
That's a no.
No.
The
but
most boring is a tall order. That's a no. I didn't think I was a superstar, but the most boring is a tall order.
I mean, I wasn't boring. And to answer your question, I listened to like Sublime and like Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Stone Temple Pilots.
I mean, I do think it's probably part of what is very, very likable about you is that you've underestimated yourself in some way. I think that's nice. I remember like one of my best, this may sound unrelated, but my best friend in high school, I just thought to myself, she just thinks she's not interested in being pretty and she happens to be gorgeous. And there's something so nice about that I think even she thought she was ugly in a way. And I don't know. It's just, I think it's nice. I think it is attractive when people underestimate themselves. I mean, through high school. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it is.
Sense?
I mean, I genuinely was confused every time a guy would ask me out. 100% confused. And well, I mean, obviously I said no because I was like, why are you asking me out? Why isn't she asking me out? But like, I was genuinely confused when guys would ask me out in high school and in college.
Sort of like, haven't you seen me carrying my books through the hallways? I'm so boring. Why would you ask me out?
No, I mean, like, I knew I wasn't boring. I knew I wasn't. I was trying to fly under the radar, and I got confused when I wasn't flying under the radar. Yeah.
At what point did you come out?
I mean, it was a process. It was definitely a process. Like, I came out to myself probably when I was like 14, 15. Probably 15, closer to 15, because like at 14 I started questioning it, and then my friends slowly got to know, and then when I went to college it became a whole new thing, and I didn't want to have to come out to everyone, so I just kind of didn't. And then it looked like I was being very closeted, and that was confusing. That was definitely confusing to the person who I was dating at the time. She thought that I was very closeted, and it was just more like, I don't want to have to deal with it. And then at some point, my grandmother took me aside and was like, Lauren, I know you're gay. And I was like, oh, fuck.
Good old grandma.
What did that mean? She just wanted to express that she's like, I'm not a fucking idiot.
Yeah, basically. I mean, she's like a New York Jew from the Bronx.
Right.
Like, yeah, she's like, I have eyes.
That energy.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite subgenres of coming out but totally gone in that direction is people fed up with the gay person for being in the closet when everyone knows they're gay. That's like with the peak being this like MTV true life story where they followed this gay guy around as he planned to come out to everyone. And so everyone, he's just like, there's all these interviews with him where he's like, I just don't know if I can let everyone know that I'm gay. I want you to follow me. I'm planning to tell my best friend. And then there's just all these other interviews with everyone in his life. And they're like, we know, but we're trying to be gentle with him. And so they filmed him coming out and he's like, I have something to tell you and you're not going to believe it. But I hope that you support me. and then everyone's just like, yeah, it's fine.
Can we get to the meal portion of the evening?
Right. Do you want to go to Whataburger? Okay, great. Oh, I can't do that. That's a regional reference.
Scott, do you want to explain?
Okay, for the listener, Whataburger is a fast food restaurant in Texas.
It is in Texas.
Is that the only place it is?
No,
yeah,
there's
couldn't tell you.
Aren't there's some in LA?
Whataburger?
IDK.
I think so.
I had no clue In-N-Out was a real thing until I moved here. So I thought it was just a made up thing in like TV.
The way they talk about In-N-Out annoys the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I mean, just the whole premise of In-N-Out's kind of pretentious.
What's the premise?
I mean, it's very religious.
Yeah.
They have.
What
Did
is
you not know?
going in and out? what's religious about
Well,
in and
like,
out?
well, no, the whole
Animal
thing, like
style?
they're just the owner was very religious, but
Oh,
like, yeah,
it's a Chick-fil-A situation?
yeah, it's kind of a Chick-fil-A
I
situation.
didn't know that.
Yeah, but it's not as bad as Chick-fil-A, or maybe I'm just pretending
Chick-fil-A
like it
is
isn't.
like full public service announcement of hating gay people, right?
Oh yeah, no.
Like, they're like, here, your fries don't have an abortion.
Yeah.
In-N-Out is printed on the fries box.
In-N-Out
for
is the
our
level where
listeners.
all of their material have Bible verses printed
Yeah.
somewhere small on them, like on the
Yeah,
cups.
they do.
Is that
And the
they
fry
really
wrapper.
do?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they really do.
It's like those
Yeah.
Bronner soaps where there's just like Alex Jones talk printed all over
The
the
graphic
fucking
designer in me just winces when I see that bottle.
I kind of love that. The soap
yeah.
bottle that won't shut up.
Yeah.
And it's like a raving person by the freeway. All this one is everything, and it's soap goes in you and out of you, and it's around you in the halo. Like it's
What?
But the other pretentious thing about In-N-Out is that every single In-N-Out has to be exactly the same. So every In-N-Out is laid out exactly the same.
Okay.
Yeah, and
that's a head scratcher. I didn't notice that.
mm-hmm. And they have like very
Is that
minimal.
why they all have the palm trees that make the X?
I think
what I'm talking about?
I think the X was originally like an X marks the spot. Like
Is part of what you're saying that they build the building the same way every
Mhm.
time too? They build the building for it. Yeah,
Yep.
they can't fill a building with it. They have to build a building for it.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
This is not where I expected. I
Yeah.
didn't know In-N-Out trivia would be this interesting. I was just saying literally the way people talk about it like it's a special place to eat annoys me.
well, and
It's a
also
totally
like
petty
the fact
comment.
that they
It's
have
fine.
this like pretentious secret menu.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't-
Every
can't do that
In-N-Out
bit. We already
is
did that bit.
every
Can't do that
In-N-Out
bit.
is designed the same. I just realized that.
Exactly. Yeah,
I know that hits different.
but it's not.
Ari, what were you like in high school?
Oh,
I dropped out of high school and left home.
At what? In what grade?
Or
what age?
Freshman year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There was part of it was cultural because I grew up in Austin, and I did feel that literally when the movie Dazed and Confused came out, we identified with it too much. Like you just I don't know. Don't get me wrong. It's like I'm sure there's people by the boatload who don't relate to this at all, but it just seemed that everyone I knew could almost be told you're miserable Gen X people, and we would all just in unison agree. And then so many of the people I knew dropped out. But I'm sure I just didn't know a bunch of people that didn't. But for whatever reason, as soon as someone showed me that you could cut class, I just left school.
Mhm.
That was somehow the way my brain worked, that somebody could just show me that you can just leave, and then it broke me. I was like, oh, well, this is dumb. And then I just left.
Interesting.
And that goes back to something weird about me that separated from my parents when I was little. Like there was some kind of thing where I was like, you're not authority figures that happened. I called my parents by their first names
Oh,
when I was
wow.
little.
Hmm.
My earliest memories is of looking at my mother.
Is that why you call me mom?
That's why I'm trying to crawl back inside you all the time. I'm so sorry about that.
It's okay. It's not that stretched out. I don't have enough sex.
I had a friend who said,
Sidebar.
I had a total sidebar now that you've made a stretched out vagina joke. We're going into a stretched out vagina sidebar because I do love this. I had this friend who said that if you want to make friends or get the party started with a bunch of gay men, make jokes about having a blown out vagina. And then, and I swear to God, and she said it to me, and I was sort of like, that's true. Like like she was just like, if you want to make friends with gay men, just talk in disgusting ways about your female body and they're in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went to a party. I put on dance music and everyone's like standing around, and there was a smoke machine, but they were such nerds that the smoke machine was going off and nobody was dancing. Everyone was just major wallflower energy.
Yeah.
And she stood in front of the smoke machine and just started waving this like folder or something in front of her vagina and was like, oh no, all this steam, this smoke from the smoke machine's coming out of my vagina. And I was like, she's doing it. She's literally doing it like a psychopath, making a disgusting vagina joke. 5 seconds, all the gay men had filled the dance floor and were so happy. Like all the gay men like heard the call of a woman joking about her disgusting vagina, and they were like, "It's time to get down," and they just filled the floor. This totally happened.
I'm putting this in my giant stretched out vagina and I'm going to use this for later.
Did you see how I laughed when you said you put it in your giant stretched out vagina?
I'm going to use this for later.
I really can't.
I'm going to bury it up in there.
This is like stop. This is like a comedy blowgun dart that you could just use to strategically take out gay men.
Yeah. Anyway, so in high school, you were. Did we already? Oh no, you dropped out of high school. Where did you go when you dropped out? Did you stay in Austin?
No, I guess the thing I was trying to convey, because I did do my sidebar. One of my earliest memories was of seeing my mother from the bathtub, and I couldn't speak yet. I was pre-verbal, and I thought this person who's in charge of taking care of me is deeply mentally ill. The way that she was interacting with me, it just felt very conspicuous, and she was trying to joke with me, and even at whatever I was, like 2 or 3, I was like, she just looks off trying to be a human mother. She was cast poorly in the role of human mom. And something about that just totally stuck with me in my relationship with authority instinctively. I'm bad at vibe wise recognizing authority. Yeah. And part of the reason why it's weird too, because it throws me, because I do think that how you construct a space from the top down is one of the most important things that you can do. And so the way that it has left me has been a very creative, weird thing to be, because like one of the reasons I'm going into being a therapist is so that I can cast my spell over the space that I'm in. That's why I like to teach. It's just important to me to be able to put the vibe in motion, because I recognize throughout my working life, people have set so many bad vibes in motion, and they're so awful to be in, and you can't change them. When the person in charge is a shithead, everything follows from that. And that's all it takes, is like for the teacher or the facilitator to be kind of shut down. It just runs through the marrow of the space. And I love the opposite. I love to open it up and have something be contributed by everybody, like almost like a village soup or something. Like I just love the opposite. I love there to be a chance for everyone to contribute.
It's very lovely.
It's lame.
It's lovely.
No, I think it contributes to how well you do in a group setting and how well you do at facilitating group settings. You know, because my experiences of you have always been through a group, whether it be through the Finding the Game workshop or the sketch workshops that we've all taken. Yeah,
I haven't.
Oh, Lauren.
Sorry.
Shame. Well, yeah. Speaking of
shame.
Well, anyway, you were great to.
Sorry, you weren't talking about me for a second, so I had to bring myself up. Just make it about me.
Thank you, Adrien.
Yeah,
that was very lovely, Adrien. Scott, what were you like in high school?
I was a lot like this.
Yeah.
I have a very it felt like TV sitcom sort of upbringing. My parents are still together, and I grew up in Kansas, went to Kansas University, but I was in high school. I was the art guy, I think, but I was also high school is where I made a conscious decision to be like, I want to be less academic and more trying to figure out how to have people like me, or how to make friends and be social. So I focused on trying to do that. But most of my groups, my friend groups were in like my activities. So I had a bunch of art, like a group of art friends and band friends, or whatever classes I was in. But yeah, I had a pretty no major event high school sort of going through. And I don't know how to describe it, because it feels it's the only, I don't really have a good descriptor. But
what was your instinct on friend making? Like, did you start leaning toward more creative friends, or?
I think I liked funny friends. I liked people who I could converse with, and they would make me laugh, and I would try and do the same thing. I was always trying to find jokes in conversations or whatever. Like I'm shoehorning jokes into whatever discussion I'm having. So I would always look for people who would play that kind of game with me and go off on like little act outs or little riffs, and that just be a normal thing. And sometimes I would find, I think throughout the years, I found people where I'm like, oh, I click really well with this person, and trying to keep those friendships strong, or keep track of the people when we all move different places and catch up with them. But
do we all have know people from school vibes?
What do you mean? Oh, like I'm not really friends with any of my friends from anybody from school.
Some people aren't.
Yeah, I don't have any friends from high school anymore. I have one friend who I hang out with now after like we went through some trauma together and like reunited, but it wasn't like we stayed friends. Yeah. So it was like more like a new friendship that was reignited because we had a common high school friend.
Do you still have any enemies from high school, or have those faded as well?
I didn't really have any enemies. I mean, like that was my whole shtick. Like I didn't want to have enemies.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to fly under the radar so that nobody really noticed me enough to hate me enough. But I probably did have enemies. Now that I'm thinking about it, there were probably people who hated me.
You think? Really?
I don't know. I'd like to think so.
I annoyed someone so much that they were like, leave me alone.
Really?
Yeah, because I had a girl crush on somebody, and they were like, please leave me alone.
Like a girl crush, like you had a crush on a girl?
Yeah.
And you wanted to be friends with her?
Yes.
Okay.
She played soccer.
Oh.
I was in a trance.
Mm.
We rode the bus to the same stop after school every day, and I was just sort of like high on like looking up to her.
Oh, wow.
That was like not bonding with my mother left me especially vulnerable to big sister relationships. And so the first one I had was my older sister. I was utterly convinced that like whenever I'd see Cyndi Lauper or Madonna in a video, I was like, this is definitely my sister, but like in a reincarnated for 4 minutes.
Oh yeah,
30 seconds.
we talked about that. The Open Your Heart video.
We did, yes. I do identify fully with the young boy in the Open Your Heart video where Madonna runs away with him and is like, it's much better to be friends with this young boy and to dance down the street. I was like, yes, it is.
Yes.
Open Your Heart video. Yes, it is.
I mean, I was obsessed with Madonna since I was like, I don't know, probably 8 or 9.
So
obsessed.
If we want to get like have a gross Freudian vignette of me as a child, I had a request to be beaten with pillows by my sister, listening to Venus by Bananarama while I jumped up and down on a bed, and I was like, please, would you hit me with this pillow while we listen to Venus by Bananarama? And I really think the reaction by my family was like, we don't want to watch you have sex with yourself. This is so intimate.
Was it like a I want to emulate a pillow fight vibe from that I saw on TV, or was it something that?
Do you know how there's a kind of pleasurable violence to being tickled by someone you're obsessed with? Like you just want their attention so bad, but there's a form of aggression in the tickling.
100% no. I hate tickling more than anything in the world. But
that ruins the example. Yeah. Okay, for the listener, for the listener, the rest of the people nodded as if they understand.
Yeah, no, they totally get it. But this is about me. The whole podcast is about me. So
the Swanson effect.
Yeah,
that's
right.
the name of the show.
Okay, so you're so to set the scene, you've just requested from your sister.
Yeah, no, I was like,
senseless.
I probably had
pillows.
a stupid phrase that I said too, like, can you beat me to Bananarama? Yeah. Like it, and of course,
and that wasn't a euphemism.
And just to be clear, like that, there's nothing gayer than that song, because Venus by Bananarama has the like you spin me right round drums behind it that are real bathhousey. I don't know how else to talk about the drums that are on You Spin Me Round, because there's this kind of like no, dun, 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 like kind of like weird intense drumming underneath those two songs. Anyway,
what was this activity, was this request like a theory, or had you tried out the certain pieces and you just wanted to see what they would all feel like together?
I can't tell you.
How did you come up with that?
I can't tell you the backstory. I can only tell you it happened once. And then I was obsessed with it happening again and requested it. And it probably happened once again before it was decided that this was like watching an 8-year-old suck themselves off. Like, it was
so it accidentally happened once. So the first
exactly.
time it happened. Oh, okay.
Like somehow I was jumping on the bed and getting hit with a pillow and the song happened to be on my record player.
Right.
And I was like, I'm crowning? Like I was like,
yeah. And then it turned into like a weird Buffalo Bill in a basement with a skin costume.
1000%.
Yeah, okay.
That's what everyone thought was.
Yeah.
Like I was thoroughly convinced that like the final hit of the pillow, I would just turn into Jem from Jem and the Holograms. Like just hit me hard enough and some fucking thing will happen to me. Like I'll swallow hard enough and a vagina will fall out and like go to the bottom of my crotch. I'm trying really hard to like conjure Freudian language for this because it was one of those moments where you're like, I think I need gender affirmation. Can you beat me with a pillow to Venus by Bananarama? And yeah, everyone was like, let's clear out. Let's leave him alone with this.
I think that's how like my whole family felt about me having Madonna posters all over my walls and just listening to her constantly. They're like, we're just going to ignore this until it goes away.
Yeah. You're just like, I mean, sometimes you do those things when you're growing up where you're like, I'm just going to put evidence that I masturbate here. I'm just going to like spread this evidence that I masturbate out over my walls.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it is.
And your
that's what all of the posters are.
And then you call your family in and you're like, aren't these cool? And they're like, that sure is evidence that you masturbate. I'm going to go.
So Adrien, what evidence that you masturbated was on your walls when you were growing up?
Oh my God.
And evidence that you masturbate is a decent podcast title.
Oh, to our listeners, we haven't decided on a title for our podcast at this point. That's a new
kind of true crime.
To our listeners, everyone is masturbating now. Go ahead, Adrien.
Oh my God. I think the only thing that I can remember having up on my wall was a poster for the movie for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Nice.
I don't know what that says about me.
Oh, wow.
You have good taste in movies.
I mean, it was a good movie. That's the only thing you had up on your wall? That's the only thing you can remember?
That's the only thing I can remember.
Okay.
That's the only thing you can remember? What kind of...
Did you
what
not...
kind of deeply traumatic answer is that?
1990 came around. He's like, that's it. Put it up. Leave it up. Nothing else.
No, I haven't been to your house, but I assume just a poster of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie is still up.
Still hanging up.
You take that down lovingly and roll it into a tube.
He takes a date over to stare at it and he's like, I really think Leonardo's cool.
Will you beat me with some pillows
like,
while we watch this?
You want to go up to my room and look at my poster?
She gets up there and she's like, oh, I thought that was...
Nope, that's it. There it is.
That was just like a ploy to get me upstairs.
Anyway, I'll drive you home.
No. So what were you like in high school?
In high school, I was like the kid that was friends with everybody. Yeah,
I can see that.
Like, I definitely... the codependent in me like wanted to like keep peace with everybody. And so I was like super friendly with everybody and knew everybody from like all different groups. Even though like I played sports, I wouldn't consider myself a jock because I didn't hang out with jocks, you know, but I was friends with jocks. I was friends with skater kids. I was friends with people who were super goth. I was friends with people who were nerds. Yeah.
And you told me that you were a class clown.
All the way up until my freshman year of high school. And then that's when I like totally straightened up and was like, all right, I need to focus. But a lot of that had to do with my girlfriend at the time. We had started dating when we were in 8th grade, which is when I was still a class clown. It wasn't like, I think I had mentioned this to you before already, that it wasn't like the class clown that teachers hated. Like I was very enduring, like a lot of the teachers would laugh, but they would feel obligated to
enduring or endearing.
I don't. Lauren.
Sorry.
The problem with everything.
Don't
starring
do
Lauren
it.
Swanson. I was like, I know Lauren. I was like 4, 3, 2, 1, Lauren.
But yeah, I'd get kicked out of class, but it wasn't like, they were pissed off at me. It was very endearing. But
and then you married your. Did you? I forgot to ask you because you're so smooth that my brain just slides off of these topics. Did you have kids?
No, we didn't have kids.
You're the type of person I would believe hasn't mentioned that he has kids and they're somewhere.
No, we were pretty close to having kids before we parted ways. But yeah, we were at that point where we're like, all right, it's time. But yeah, like in high school, she was like straight A student, super smart. And so I was like, well, I guess maybe I should start applying myself. And so basically it went from like a D, C student to an A student taking AP courses just because I like applied myself and like started doing the work and started paying attention in class.
Did you know back then that you had an affinity for the arts?
Yes. Yeah. Very early on. Yeah. I was always sketching, always playing with clay. Definitely tried to express myself in that way. Video camera, parents had one, used to play with that, taught myself how to edit using 2 VCRs in high school. So definitely knew that at some point I would move in that direction once I got out of high school.
Did you ever break dance for a living?
I didn't, but I had friends that did.
You have the vibe of somebody who made a living breakdancing.
I mean, I definitely listened to like, a lot of 90s hip hop, but then I also like listened to a lot of Marilyn Manson, Slipknot. Like, I was definitely into like Korn and Limp Bizkit and all that, rap
that
metal,
shit is fun.
Deftones.
I feel like that was like the palatable metal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Totally. It's like disco. It's like almost like disco death metal or something.
Yeah.
Went to Ozfest a number of years. Did that. Got heavily involved in the rave scene.
Did you ever get into like the punk scene?
No, never got into the punk scene.
I can't imagine that. That'd be weird.
I mean, I went to punk shows.
No, I mean on him.
No, I know. But this is about me.
Sorry, Lauren. Lauren, what was punk like for you, Lauren?
What was the big punk festival that they had at the Oakland Coliseum every year?
Oh. The one that like Blink-182 is at every year.
Oh, are you talking about like Horde or Warped?
Warped Tour. Warped Tour.
I did go to the Vans Warped Tour. That's like the closest I got to punk.
Got it. Yeah. That was. The only reason why I went to punk shows, I didn't even like punk music, is because a bunch of my friends who were girls dated all these men who were in punk bands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And they would all make out with each other at the punk show, and I wouldn't, because it meant something to me and didn't mean anything to them. So I'd sit there and watch them.
Oh, yeah. They were doing the I Kissed a Girl by Katy Perry kissing.
100%.
I kissed a girl and felt nothing.
So this is the point where we start getting sponsors and
yeah. Right. This is where we have to plug our things.
Yeah.
And then we read the sponsors.
Would love for LaCroix to sponsor us. That'd be great.
BetterHelp.
Who would be your ideal sponsor? LaCroix?
Like my ideal sponsor?
Yeah, let's not ask that.
Have I mentioned Madonna?
Show brought to you by Cavernous Vagina.
Right. I mean, I would like to get sponsored by something that I use often so that I don't have to buy that.
It's like condoms, or?
Yeah. It's like condoms. Fill them up with water and shove them in my giant cavernous vagina.
Oh, no. Stop disabling me. Not fair. Not fair.
I like the idea of like bits or segments. And like when the conversation hits a point, you're like, okay, maybe time for a segment or the regular type of game or type thing. I don't know.
So the bit that I had thought of that could have been a podcast concept, but maybe it's a little too narrow, I don't know, is what did you never get over? And you try to think of those interactions, not the worst thing that ever happened to you, a weird moment where you got really dysphoric. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And it just becomes a jumping off point. You're not trying to like make the person lose their damn mind. And it's not an actual, usually these memories are actually quite silly. Like they're quite frivolous.
Oh yeah.
But you're just like, and then the skull cap just peeled off and my brain was exposed. It's probably a good place to start wandering around after it also.
So like give an example.
So I had one where I went to a party and a really attractive guy came up to talk with like me and two other people. And somehow the subject became a trip to Iceland and how Icelandic people think about superstition. And he disclosed that he had just been to Iceland. But I started talking. And I started talking like I know something about how spiritual Icelandic people are and in what way. And I only talked for like maybe a minute or 30 seconds or 10 seconds, not very long, saying some shit about people living in their everyday life with a feeling of living among spirits, whatever. Like I was just saying the thing that you read on the back of a cereal box about Iceland and their spirituality.
Did you believe this, or were you like trying to be funny and making stuff up?
Well, so I'll tell you what was dysphoric about it was me being a know-it-all, which is sort of one of my behaviors. And then, which is fine. It's not much of a crime, but within like 10 seconds of starting to do it and not asking him about his trip, because he actually fucking just went to Iceland, he gave me a look and then left.
Wow.
Yeah. And
like mid-sentence?
Oh, 1000%. Not the end of a sentence. Gotta go. A total instant sort of like, and like, nah. And then just left. And so everything combining, me being a big fucking know-it-all, him being very attractive, us standing at a party, which to be honest with you, I know this might sound ridiculous, standing makes me feel very vulnerable. And
we can unpack that later.
And yeah, within an instant I was like, this is one of the worst things that's ever happened to me. like I'll always remember this. It's turning into a pearl. It's turning into a memory marble, and it will haunt me forever. Just about halfway through shampooing in the shower, it'll just like roll down the back of my brain. And I'm fine about it now. I did talk about it with my therapist and cry. Does this man mean anything? Do I give a shit about Iceland? None of it. None of it. None of it. But in that moment, and it's as if I was walking and then there was just a hallway to hell. And I was like, oh, over there's a hallway to hell. And I just looked down it and saw myself being tortured at the end of it. And it was just too much. That's the concept.
Interesting.
I definitely, some of my strongest memories from childhood are like the ones where I was cruel to someone else, where it like registered as an emotional, like, especially if like your peer group rebukes you in real time and you're just like, oh, I thought I was going to get away or be cool or something. And then it's so not that, it's so the other, and it just sears into your memory with the emotion and the embarrassment. You're just like, oh, I'm trying to tell my daughter, I'm like, oh, one of the reasons not to be cruel is because these are the things you'll remember crystal clear, like 20, 30 years down the road, where other things that you may want to remember better are faded and gone in ways. And it's weird that way.
So Freud's concept of human morality in general was literally that you will learn about cruelty from having those moments in which you see yourself as cruel, which is, of course, I really did see myself as an asshole in that conversation, like a terrible, disgusting, smug piece of shit. And you're talking about seeing yourself as somebody who, I think you mentioned it being, having something mean to it.
Yeah.
And so you saw yourself as a mean person, and it's almost like
that thing in junior high where you're like, I'm going to insult this person and it'll make me cool by comparison. And then it just goes the wrong way. And everyone's like, what is your problem? You're such an asshole. And you're like, that's not the reaction I was shooting for. And it feels so bad right now.
Yeah.
it's like a stained glass window of you in like some terrible Bible story of you being a monster.
Yeah. I have a horrible story like that. I mean, it wasn't me trying to like insult somebody, but in middle school, I had switched to a new school in seventh grade. Sixth, seventh, eighth grade was our middle school, and I'd switched to a new school, and I became friends with these people. And there was one girl who I was really good friends with, and we both went ice skating together. We were in the same ice skating class, and we went to school together. So we hung out quite a bit. And she had this huge crush on this guy. His name was Matt, but I won't say his last name. His name was Matt, and she had this huge crush on him. And we went to this school dance, and he was there. And our friend group, she kept talking about him. She's like, I really want Matt to ask me to dance. I really want Matt to ask me to dance. I just really want Matt to ask me to dance. And I'm like, go ask Matt to dance. And she's like, no, I can't. That's too embarrassing. I can't. And at some point, you know where this is going. At some point, they went to the bathroom, and I saw Matt over in the corner, and I went and I was like, hey, Matt, do you would you go dance with my friend? And he was like, I'll dance with her if you dance with me first. And I had no fucking clue, right? Like, I had no idea. Like, in my mind, Matt was the furthest thing from like a sexual being in my head.
So you were just trying to help.
Oh no, yeah, I was just trying to help.
Like,
this was a means to an end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one. Yeah, exactly. I had no idea. So like, I was like, sure, whatever. Like, I don't care. This makes no difference to me. This is watering the lawn to make the grass grow. And so I went and danced with him. And at that moment in time, my friend came out and went running back into the bathroom, crying. And I finished dancing. And I didn't see her. I heard about this after, and I went and I was like, are you still in the bathroom? So I went to the bathroom, and she was crying, and I was like, what's going on? Are you okay? And she's like, you were dancing with Matt. I can't believe it. And all this stuff. And I was like, no, he was going to ask you to dance. And then and I explained it to her like an idiot.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Like, you're welcome. And then from that moment on, I was just the biggest pariah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very traumatizing, but like, it was a fascinating situation. And I think about it, and I was like, wow, I was so clueless. Mm-hmm. I was so clueless. And it happened to me several times. It happened to me several times in middle school, and I was just so clueless.
And there was never an opening to explore. Like, the people involved her closed up in a way that they would never process it with you, I take it.
Oh, no. Because I was the new person. They were a group of friends. They had been friends forever, and I was the new person. And I'm sure I was, interesting enough for them to be friends with for long enough, but then I did something wrong, and I was not worth it anymore. Yeah.
The ostracism circuit being tripped is so awful.
Middle school was cruel. But yeah, that's definitely one of those moments that is just seared into my brain forever.
At the time that it happened, did you think I tried to do a good thing, or were you like flung into agreement that you're a horrible person? Like,
no, I think it took several people explaining it to me for me to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get it.
Were you able to talk about not getting it with people? Like, were you able to reach out to anyone?
Well, like my grandmother and I talked about it. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, my grandmother and I talked about it, and like it was pretty, I mean, like it was made pretty clear that I was kind of like a little, I wasn't very good with like social cues of horrible middle school girls. Like I was not understanding of any of their social cues. I didn't get it. And it wasn't until in 8th grade when I found a bunch of like goth, outsider people who probably experienced a lot of trauma in their life, who like I finally connected with these people, and like my honesty was appreciated and my candor was appreciated by them eventually, because I was a very honest and candid person. But then after a few times of trauma, that's I think probably one of the reasons why I became kind of like a blending in, be normal type person. Yeah. Therapy session.
Therapy, trauma bonding.
Trauma bonding. Oh yeah, for sure. Trauma bonding's a real thing. Not quite this, but yeah. I feel like I could talk to you all for like hours and hours. This is really fun.
It's chill.
Yeah, it's hella
totally
chill.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the idea of going through these experiences and not talking about them to anybody, I think is an ingredient for suffering. Like I feel like part of what held me back from understanding how to talk about things is how stupid they sound out loud. So like that thing that I went through with the party, I feel like you can't really talk about things like that because most of their reaction is not to tune into how upsetting it is to you. They're just thinking, well, why'd you take that little moment so seriously?
I mean, because it triggered something inside of you.
Yeah. And I feel like the optimism, the natural kind of conversational optimism of humans is at its most not helpful in those times, because someone might respond to you, be like, okay, well, you need to make new friends, or screw them, or, you know what I mean? Like people kind of brush you off, and it's like, it took a long time for me to understand, like, you kind of have to slow that experience down and look at it to start to be okay with it. And that will be, and I had one that was like that was so embarrassing and so funny that I couldn't talk about it. But it was something that I really needed to. And I finally talked about it with my therapist. I was like, I'm going to talk about this with you. And it was so dumb and weird that I was just like, I can't possibly talk about this with anybody. And it really helped. Like I noticed that those marbles stopped kind of like rolling down at weird times. You know what I mean? And it's like the weird thing about them is they find the bad day to roll out. That's the worst thing about them, right? Like the worst thing about bad memories is they're waiting in the wings for your bad day.
Yeah. Well,
and then they just go, hello.
Because the thing that's keeping them up there has gotten real thin. That little membrane that's keeping those marbles from rolling down has gotten too thin, and it's super perforated, and it just lets the marble through.
I made the mistake one time of thinking that mine was like a joint thing between me and the other person involved, and not just a thing that I was holding on to. So I was like, well, I can't let go of it because they definitely remember it. And then I'm even more of a jerk for getting over something that I have no right to do. And so I made the mistake, but not a mistake. It helped me realize, but somebody after 6th grade, I like was cruel to them or something. It stuck with me for years. And then later on, you do that Facebook thing where you're like, oh, I can find this person and reach out. And you're like, hey, I'm really sorry about this thing that happened way back when, and give
like a bullying episode.
Specific
kind of
No, it wasn't even that. It was we were best friends, and then he moved away, and I think I was mad about that. So when he called to say something, I said something cruel back because my feelings were going through the wrong channels and coming out the wrong way.
Yeah.
But I felt hurt and left or whatever. So I said something that stuck with me for years, and later on tracked him down. I'm like, hey, I'm so sorry. And he was like, I have no recollection. I do not remember that at all. I remember us being friends. What you're talking about, has not registered to me at all. And I'm like, oh, that's all in me. Like I have permission to get rid of that because no one else is holding on to that at all. But it's still so hard because I could still remember. I'm like, oh, I could tell you the specifics completely.
That's such a deep learning that sometimes my mind is blown by the importance and centrality of it, of specifically becoming convinced that everyone is on their own trip, and that even if you have a fight with someone, you're two separate people tripping out on your own shit. Like a couple that chases after each other's conflict or upsetness as if they actually need to figure it out between the two of them rather than comfort themselves about what they're tripping out on. They'll go down endless rabbit holes and not find what they need to find. And that lesson, even just of like noticing that it's your trip, is, I have to admit, like, I'm a little sad about it that we're all on our own trip. Like, that's one of my fundamental sadnesses. But it is the key to mental health in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would be lovely to be able to offload things onto other people. Just like to share trauma moments.
Well, it's almost like emphatically one of our expressions of escapism is to make a world in which everybody is interconnected in their conflicts and events. And I think one of the hardest things about that people have in experiencing the real world is people are just kind of in their own fucking soup, and you're just bumping into them while they're busy losing their mind in their own shit.
Yeah.
And it's not actually this thing where we all need to work it out, and a little bit from you and a little bit from me, and then
Yeah, but there is something, I mean, there is something that he said about, like you said, trauma bonding, like having somebody who's gone through something very similar to you and being able to like not have to explain it. That's a really lovely thing. Like, I made a friend recently where both her and I had lost our mothers around the same time, both of lung cancer. And
Wow.
yeah, and we became friends, and there was just this unspoken thing. Like, we could bring it up, and we didn't have to like go through the, no, it's okay, really, I promise it's fine, like thing with that other people you have to go through with other people, or explaining it. It was such a nice, and it's sad to say about something so sad, but like, it was such a nice thing to have somebody with that kind of an experience, that you can speak the same language with.
in shorthand.
It's a shorthand. Yeah, there's a shorthand there that you don't have to explain. And you've seen the world through that lens, and you are continuing to see the world through a lens of, I lost my mother, like, and you both see the world through that lens. So like, if, we watched a movie together and a mother figure died in the movie, and we both had a similar reaction. And it was nice because like, I didn't feel like I had to explain it. It was an unspoken thing. It was very nice. So having that, like, I understand, like, being able to share trauma with somebody would be lovely.
Yeah.
You're shaking your head like you agree.
What's that?
Adrien?
It's a wartime bond, right? That soldiers bond together over trauma.
Totally. Yeah. No, I feel like I connect most with people when I have a deep conversation with them, when it pertains to something, from the past that really affected them. Feels like when I really emotionally connect to somebody. Something that, what was the question?
Oh, dysphoric.
What did you never get over?
Oh, that's a good one. All right, let's see. So I was living in LA at the time. Probably the worst thing I've ever done.
Living in LA? I get it. I feel you. I mean, I've never lived there, but like, it just sounds. Sorry for all my friends who live in LA and everybody who Oh, that's where all the sponsors live, don't they?
Yeah.
That's,
For the listener-
shit.
For the listener, she's talking about Los Angeles, which is a city in California.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Okay.
It was for my ex-wife's birthday, and I had gotten out of work early to go out to dinner or to lunch or something. And we were in the car, and I'd like tried so hard to do all the work that I could do so I could get out of work early. And I remember she was just so pissed off at me. And I think I was just like, I was getting so angry because I felt like I had tried so hard to like make the day special for her. And I don't know, she was just being so mean. And I completely lost it and called her a fucking bitch. And she got out of the car. And I left her there. I drove home. Yeah, she was basically on the sidewalk walking, and I left her there. And she had a lot of time to think during that walk home about...
You are a layer cake. This is the dirt layer. This is the layer that's made of just sand and fucking glass. Continue.
Continue to open up. Be vulnerable.
Commence with vulnerability.
Present your wound so that I may salt it.
And thinking back on it, like from a father's perspective, like if my daughter's husband like ever did that to her, I'd be like, there's no way. Get the fuck out of that relationship.
For you to say that from a father's perspective, that sounds like the emergence of probably the most painful angle to look at it from. Like that's even, I have to take a moment and breathe hearing that. That sounds like a brutal way to process that experience.
Yeah, it was. Cause like for the longest time, I think I imagined her still standing there waiting for me to pick her up, and knowing full well that I never did and I never will,
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, that was one thing that I really had to unpack in therapy, was that. Yeah. Once the anger had subsided, like that's when the reality set in, and I was like, oh my God, what did I do? How could I have done that to somebody that I love so much, and who I've known since I was like a kid. We had started dating when I was 13 and she was 14. And so, yeah. But yeah, that was a big one to process.
Wow.
I'm probably always going to be afraid on some level of the thing that I saw in myself at that party in that stupid anecdote. Like,
yeah, I think I'm always going to be afraid that I'm going to like miss something and just be like, right. Like I'm going to be the
story. Yeah.
Like I'm always going to be that person who like I very much am still the person who comes into a conversation and be like in the middle of a conversation that people are talking about, and I'll be like, what I miss, guys, what I miss. Mm-hmm. It's like, I just don't want to, like, I'm so afraid that I like missed something.
Will you let yourself get talked into doing things that you don't actually want to do?
I tend to not do that anymore, but I used to all the time. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. I used to, especially like I never wanted to go to a fucking punk show. But I went to so many goddamn punk rock concerts, and I hated every single one. Mm. I hated mosh pits.
And, I hated them. As a thoughtful friend, I've been induced into being a know-it-all by so many people and given positive feedback about it. And still to this day, think everyone will show up some dark night with a torch and say, everything you ever said was such a fucking annoying. Like you filled all the space that could have been used for something else. You're so fucking annoying. Like you're too thoughtful. It's bullshit.
Man.
So I feel like I'm introing the Babadook. And welcome to the show, the Baba Duck. And he's like, oh yeah, I feed on nightmares. I
like at the beginning of the show that we asked to everybody to introduce themselves, and we finally are now. Yeah. I'm not trying to get super deep.
This is more of a 3-parter, I think, Scott, when you do the editing.
Yeah.
Okay, totally.
7-part series. 13 episodes of just us in.
It ends with Adrien murdering several of us.
And then celebrating by sitting in the dark. Eating a burrito.
This is a true crime podcast. We just don't know it yet.
Yes.
That's the twist at the end.
A vegan burrito. Covered in our blood.
So I'm hungry.
Of course you are, Ari.
Let's stop. Turn it off. Turn it off.
Bye, everyone. Love you.
We're obsessed with attention.
Goodbye.